Hi, I'm Matt. I usually talk about electric guitar, but I do play bass and acoustic sometimes. And an interesting project I came up with earlier in this quarantine is I've always had a bass pedal board for years now. And then I was starting to put together an acoustic board. And somewhere on day 3 of shopping for a compressor for that board that I was going to spend a bunch of money on, I realized I use most of the same things for both of those two instruments. Like my essentials for a bass board would be a tuner, a compressor, and a DI. And then my essentials for an acoustic board would be like a tuner, a compressor, a DI, and a reverb. And, maybe a boost or an overdrive for either one. And I realized I wonder if there's a way I can put together a board for both instruments that works equally well. And I did it, and it's kind of fun. So I'm making a video about that. So I'll go through the bass part of it first, but it's really almost the same signal chain for both. What I did is I already had a tuner, a reverb, and then an acoustic DI that I liked for my acoustic board. And then I already had a tuner, a compressor, and a bass DI. So I ditched one of the tuners, combined the boards, and then bought a boost that I thought would work for either instrument. My signal chain here is I'm going into the tuner first, and I have that first specifically because one of my acoustic instruments needs a certain impedance at the other end of the plug because of the pickup it has, and I bought this tuner on purpose so that it would match that. So I have the tuner first for that reason, and then into the compressor, a boost slash kind of an overdrive, reverb, and then this is my bass DI, and it would go out from here, and that's the whole board if I'm playing bass. But if I'm playing acoustic, I have used the parallel output to go up into this acoustic DI, and I can also go out from there. So the bass sound is like this. This is my totally unaffected signal. Which I just really like the VT bass Sans amp. It's it adds a little bit of grit, and it lets me adjust the EQ for different applications. But this is kind of my clean like default sound. And then if I need to, I can also use this for gain. And then I have this Diamond bass compressor because I love the Diamond compressor on guitar, so I just grabbed the bass version when they came out with a mini one. So I like having a compressor on bass because it evens out, like you're naturally going to pick some notes louder than others, and even just the frequencies of the notes. Some notes are going to be louder than others. So, and then I've added this spark booster with the intent of it being a kind of a bass overdrive when I'm in bass mode here. If you get the mini booster, it really is just a clean boost, but if you get this large spark booster, it has a drive knob, or gain knob it's labeled. This is without. And here's with the drive on. So that sounds pretty great as a bass overdrive. I like that I'm not losing any lows, and it's not really adding anything weird that's not supposed to be there. It just is like a clean drive. That's what I use it for on the bass, is usually more of a drive. It could potentially be a volume boost, but I like that it's a clean boost because when I'm in acoustic guitar mode, it can just be like a clean volume boost that's not going to make my acoustic weird. And then I wouldn't normally put a reverb on a baseboard, but because it's there for the acoustic, I'll show it to you. It is pretty cool. I've gone with the Immerse, the New Neighbor Immerse reverberator. It's really cool. So again, probably not something I would intentionally put on just a baseboard, but one of the perks of having this also be an acoustic board, I get to use that sometimes. So I'm not into having a ton of pedals on a baseboard. This is even fewer than I used to have at one point. You know, I need the tuner, I like the compressor, I need the DI, and then the Spark is kind of just gives me some flexibility for overdrive or for a bit of a volume boost. The reverb is totally just for fun, but all of these same pedals are useful for my acoustic. My hope for this project was that I could avoid having to build a separate acoustic board by just using the same pedals as bass but dialed in differently. And so far I like it. Obviously it's still straight into the tuner. That's an essential no matter what kind of board you're building. And then I have to dial in the bass comp differently. I don't think my acoustic is very high output, so I have the compressor knob up really high. But I'm using it for just a little bit of compression. I don't know if you can see that the LED on the diamond there. It changes to yellow a little bit when I'm like hitting the compressor, which I'm not at all when I strum normally. But if I really lay into it. So it's compressing those crazy peaks if I strum hard, and then I'm using the tilt EQ to add a little bit of high end and lose some low end. So here's the acoustic without the compressor. So it's adding maybe a little bit of volume. It's compressing just the peaks, and then the tilt EQ is cutting some bass, adding some treble. That compressor's more there for the bass, but I do like what it's doing on the acoustic. And then the Spark, I probably wouldn't use on acoustic too often. If you were doing some kind of like an acoustic solo, which is not something I do often, but I could add just some clean volume for that. So this is without. I probably wouldn't use that on acoustic, but where I might use that is on mandolin, which I also would use this board for. You could be doing, you know, just support chord. And then if you hit a part where you need to be featured, just kind of jump out of the mix a little bit. I don't see doing that with acoustic as much as I see doing that with like a mandolin or a banjo or something, but that's why that's on there for the acoustic board. And then the reverb is more here for the acoustic than it is for the bass. I got the Immerse on purpose because it's known for kind of staying out of the way of your playing. And so far I've actually found it too subtle for electric guitar. Like I don't hear it in a mix when I'm playing with it, but it sounds good on acoustic. So I like the reverb on there for kind of finger picked passages and mellow stuff like that. I wouldn't have that on while I'm strumming hard like I was a minute ago. The immerse is such a good acoustic reverb because it stays kind of behind your signal, but it just adds this washy like ambience. And then the way I have this routed where the parallel output of the VT bass is going into the Bag's Para Acoustic DI, the VT bass is not in the signal path at all. Like it's just a hardwire straight back out. So that's doing nothing to me right now. It's just not in the path, which is kind of what this whole combined board depends on, is being able to use the different DIs because I have them dialed in very differently. I was online researching buying like an AB box or something for this, and then I discovered that parallel output, so I don't actually need one. It bypasses this entirely and then goes into this Bag's DI, which I use anytime I'm playing acoustic. It's dialing out a lot of irritating kind of high mids. That like obnoxious ice picky kind of quacky sound that acoustic pickups can have. It's getting rid of that for me and then outputting just kind of a nice signal to the board. So I'm really happy with this combined board experiment. Every time I've tried to build an acoustic board, I get 3 or 4 pedals deep into it and then I'm just like, what am I doing? You know, like I'm spending money on this unnecessary side project. And I end up dismantling it and selling all the pedals again. And I think having it combined with the baseboard makes me feel less ridiculous about this because they're sharing a compressor, they're sharing a tuner. I would have had these 2 DIs anyway. There's even some redundancy. If one of these DIs were to fail, I could just use the other one on a gig. I do not anticipate either the Tech 21 or the Bags doing that to me, but it's available. I'm really enjoying this experiment, and it saved me probably a few $100s worth of like other pedals I would have had to buy for the acoustic board if it had remained 2 separate things. So kind of a cool project. And it keeps me from adding anything weird and unnecessary because every time I start to wonder if I need a bass octave pedal or like a chorus for the bass or something, I'm like, there's no room. I need to keep the acoustic pedals on here too. So it kind of keeps both boards bare bones and simple, and I thought it was cool. It's one of my better quarantine projects. And I forgot to mention a word about the board itself. This is actually a handmade board that my dad put together for me back when I like first started playing guitar. So it's a homemade board, and then it has this super low tech isolated power supply here, where instead of using like a Voodoo Labs unit or something, it's just a 6-plug like surge protector bolted onto the back of the pedal board, and then each pedal is kind of on its own wall wart. They're isolated. It's kind of low tech, but it's definitely working. So 1 or 2 of them might be on splitters because I see there's only 4 power supply things and more than 4 pedals. So I think I have 1 or 2 of them on like a daisy chain or something. The digital ones are separate, and then most of these are low current draw anyway. So I had to hack the Bags DI to get it attached to the power supplies. I don't like running that unit on either a battery or on phantom power. And so I followed this zany tutorial that I found online for how you can kind of hack together a power input for that. And what's in that battery drawer that it has is a length of balsa wood that I cut to be the size of a 9-volt battery, and then just like an adapter on the end. But it's totally working, and that I'm not reliant on phantom power from the board for this anymore, which is nice. Anyway, stay safe out there. Hope this was fun or useful, or at least not a waste of time. Thank you.